Anything with nipples. Cats have nipples. Hey guys, it's Matt and Jerva with the Busted Couch. We are here to talk about Django Unchained today and how wonderful that movie was. I'm not much of a Western fan. The only Westerns I really ever recall watching are like American Outlaws, which was yeah, which
so no Westerns in it.
Yeah, pretty much no Westerns. I think I watched bits of Tombstone and like a couple of Clint Eastwood movies back in the day that I don't even remember what they were. I can't remember. It's been a long time. Like that was back when I was 7 years old. So anyway, this one was enjoyable and it drew my attention. It kept it for the whole time. It was a good movie. And Jamie Foxx's penis is in it.
It was really good. I have seen more Westerns than you.
Yeah. It doesn't take much.
When most people think of Westerns, they're probably going to think of either John Wayne stuff or Sergio Leone stuff. And it actually felt less traditional Western in those regards than Kill Bill Volume 2 did. Naming it Django Unchained is really... like, that's... if you've seen the original Django, it has a lot more in common with that. And, I can't remember the name of the Sam Peckinpah, With All the Blood movie.
Regardless of whether you like Westerns or not, considering that I don't really watch them, and this movie is great. I enjoyed every single second of it.
It's really good. If you like Tarantino,
Yeah.
you'll like this movie.
Yeah, so if you're a fan of Tarantino, you definitely have to go see it. Like, hands down. That's obvious. If you're a Tarantino fan, you've probably already watched it anyway. If you're not a Tarantino fan, then you'll probably, like, if you don't like any of his movies, you won't like Django Unchained.
Well, that is one thing, is it did a much more accurate and not kind of whitewashed look at slavery than pretty much any other movie does. Because, like, a lot of movies that'll deal with slavery will have a lot less of the darker stuff in. It'll just be like, yeah, we just kept them and had them as servants. They're no different than a butler, really.
It's pretty brutal in some spots. And the N-bomb is dropped quite a few times. If you get offended easily, you probably shouldn't watch it. My advice...
If you get offended easily, fuck you.
Yeah, if you get offended easily, tell us in the comments. Anyway, I recommend this to anyone that is a Tarantino fan or a fan of Westerns that can at least tolerate Tarantino. Like, I love Tarantino, but I understand that not everyone likes him, so, you know, to each their own, whatever. But yeah, go watch it.
Definitely watch it.
And it's at this point that we're going to start talking about the movie in depth. It moved pretty fast. Yeah. It didn't feel like 2 hours and 45 minutes. It felt like a standard hour and 45-minute movie. I don't know what some of these other people were talking about where they felt like the movie was just going to end, because at no point did I see a conclusion.
No, until the end.
Until the end.
Yeah.
So the movie opens up and it's a bunch of black slaves being trailed across Texas by a couple of guys on horseback. It's just like the introduction, like, you know, the intro credits and stuff like that, and then it ends with them walking down a forest trail at night, and they run into a dentist. And the dentist wants to talk to a slave that was purchased from a specific plantation because he has possibly has specific information on a couple of guys. So this all results in a pretty cool scene. You're just like, you know that the dentist isn't a dentist. You just know. So, and he's in all the trailers and stuff. So you're kind of already got it. So, what's that actor's name? Do you know?
Christoph Waltz.
So he gets off the horse and he goes up to talk to Django, and then the one guy is just like, you know, I've had enough of this. You know, you and your big words. It's like, you stop talking, you go away. These are our slaves. No deal, because he's offering to buy Django from these guys. and he starts pointing his gun at the dentist. I can't remember his name in the movie for some reason. What was his name in the movie? The character's name?
Well, his horse was named Fritz.
His horse was named Fritz, and it always gave a bow when it's introduced, which is polite. Anyway, he points his gun at him, and he's just like, "Are you sure you want this? Okay, fine." And then he just drops his light and then shoots the guy in the face, and then shoots the other guy's horse in the face, and then the horse, reels up and lands on him and breaks his leg, and that's when they have a nice dialogue with Django about, these specific people, and so he frees Django, and, he pays the guy, he gives him the money, gives it to him, and then he gives the other slaves a couple of options. It's like, one, you could carry your new master back to town 37 miles back in the direction you just came from to a doctor, or I could just toss you this key and you could take his rifle and shoot him in the face. You can probably guess what option they chose, and thus begins the journey of Django. I really liked the sequence that started in the town. Like they're all, yeah,
they're all staring because Django's riding a horse.
Yeah, because no black people ride horses back then, so
they're all just like, what?
They're like, what the fuck is going on? Where am I? They go into the tavern, and it's not open yet, but then the guy freaks out because Django's in there, because no black people are allowed in there. He's like, get this guy out of here, and they're like, no, and he runs off to get the sheriff. He's like, now make sure you get the sheriff specifically. This is the German, the dentist guy. He's like, make sure you get the sheriff specifically. I don't want the deputy, just the sheriff, please. They sit and have a beer, and Django gets the lowdown from the German about like what it is he does. He's a bounty hunter, and what it is that Django is supposed to do, and then that earns him his freedom. That's when the sheriff walks in. He's like, "All right, boys, it's time to leave." And then they walk outside, and the German just shoots the sheriff right in the gut. And then someone like out in the crowd's like, "What do you do to our sheriff?" Without saying another word, he just walks around him, shoots him in the head. And everyone just runs off screaming. He's like, "Now go get your deputy." And then the bartender's like, "Deputy!" Just runs off, screaming deputy. When the deputy comes back, he gets like 100 people like all surrounding this building, the saloon, and he calls them out, and they have this conversation, and basically the German explains to the deputy that the sheriff was not who he said he was, and he's actually a bounty, and he's got the bounty in his hand, and nice little twist.
Yeah. So basically he kills the sheriff. And everyone's sitting around, he explains this, and he's like, so basically what I'm saying is, you owe me $200. The reason he got Django in the first place was because he used to be a slave on this one plantation where these guys worked who are his bounty, and he has no idea what they look like. But Django does because he used to work with them. And he knows they're somewhere up working under like fake names in this like one area, and so they're just going to go plantation to plantation until they find them, and Django verifies who they are, and then they're going to kill them, and that's what they do. And Django's wearing his frilly blue suit.
So you mean to tell me that I get to dress myself? Yeah. He gives himself a buzz cut and gets us all dressed up in a nice blue suit with some like nice frilly, whatever that is. I can't. How that's called?
Frills.
Poofy white stuff coming out there. But yeah, he whips the one guy a lot and shoots him a few times in front of all the slaves. Mm-hmm.
Which they do not. The plantation owner does not take kindly to him. A black man shooting his white workers in front of all the slaves.
Well, he didn't take kindly to him showing up on a horse.
No.
He pretty much is just like, fuck you guys, get out of here if you're going to have a black person on a horse.
Yep. Until the German mentions how he's willing to pay a bunch of money for a slave.
It's like, I have 5,000 reasons.
Django is now free. The German says, like, well, like if you just go down there looking for your wife, was sold to a different master than he was, you're going to get killed going into like a slaving town as a black man. So why don't you just work for me over the winter? I'll teach you how to be a bounty hunter, and then in the spring we'll go together and you'll find your wife. And that's what they do.
We forgot one of the best scenes in the movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. So after killing the people on the plantation, the leader is very, very upset and is in the KKK. And so this group of people go after them wearing hoods. There's a hilarious scene about how shitty their hoods are and how the eye holes don't fit and they can't see anything when they're riding their horses. But they can't not wear them when they're riding their horses because that's the whole point. It's supposed to look intimidating, and as long as the horses can see, it's fine.
Yes.
The one guy gets really pissed because his wife had spent all day making these hoods for them. He's like, well, I'm not doing anything for you guys anymore. And just rides off.
Like anytime you want something from me and mine, you can just bugger off and just run. He just rides off. The coach that the German has a tooth on top, and he keeps stuff in it. But instead, this time he just takes the stuff that he has thrown there.
Normally, it's where he keeps his money, but he pulls out his money and instead puts dynamite in it.
Shoves a bunch of dynamite in there. So
that when all the KKK people ride up to kill them, they ride up to an empty coach, which he then blows up.
Yeah, and then he gives Django an opportunity to use the rifle, and Django just, he does well. He just, one shot, one kill. It's like, oh, he's a natural, And then they spend the winter doing bounty work, and Django gets even better with guns. And this movie didn't have as many really long, dragged out dialogues.
Yeah,
like
there was nothing like the tavern scene in Inglourious Basterds, which was like 25 minutes. Yeah,
where they're just pointing guns at each other on the table the whole time, and then they shoot each other in the balls.
We did have a lot of ball shooting, though.
There was a lot of ball shooting. Lots of balls getting shot.
In fact, that's the next scene is Django putting like beer bottles in a snowman and training to shoot to become a bounty hunter. And one of them is he shoots it in its dick bottle. Yeah,
and then they go down to Mississippi after the winter's over.
Yep, and they check in a ledger and find out who his wife had been sold to. And
Mr. Candy.
Yep. It's Leonardo DiCaprio.
With his right-hand servant, Sam Jackson.
Who are two really, really great villains.
Yeah. Django's trying to build up his character as some sort of black slaver.
Yep.
And
yep, he's basically they're trying to get into the good graces of Mr. Candy by pretending that they want to buy a slave to basically just fight in fights and
what they call them?
Dingo fights.
Yeah.
The German is the money, and he has the interest in getting into it, but Django is the one who knows about it, knows what will make a good fighting man, and has led him to Candy because he believes he's the best option for them to buy a really good fighter. And that's the scene with Franco Nero in it, which is pretty awesome. The guy who asks Django how his name is spelled, and then when he says the D is silent, the guy says, I know. That's the original Django from the Italian Django film.
Oh.
Which is a pretty awesome Western. It's about a guy who walks through the desert dragging a coffin behind him. The coffin is completely full of guns. So
yeah, Django just basically is like a badass, and he's trying to intrigue Mr. Candy. He's not trying to piss him off or anything like that. He's just... Mr. Candy hasn't ran into anyone that's like Django before, so...
yeah, because really it's all just a con. They want to get in there, pretend that they're going to buy someone else, and then on an offhand thing just buy this other interesting girl, because his wife, Brumhilde, turns out she speaks German. So the German's going to be like, oh wow, she speaks German, that's so cool, I'll take her off her hand, sure. And then it's like, okay, we'll be back in a few days, give you thousands of dollars for that other guy, bye, and then we'll leave. That's the plan. And it's going fine until Sam Jackson shows up.
Fucking dick. I like how his old man...
Yeah, it's all just an act
act
for the white folk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think Mr. Candy
His,
understands
demeanor
that.
completely changes when he's just around other black people.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. I would say that Sam Jackson is probably pretty close to being the best actor in the movie. I really liked his character a lot. It was all going according to plan until Sam.
Yep.
Yeah.
He pulls Candy aside and tells him, it's like, they know each other. So this is what the actual plan is. She's probably his wife or something.
It's like he knew.
Yep. So, they end up forcing him to pay the $12,000 that he was going to pay for the fighting guy for his wife instead. And then they're going to leave, and Candy stands up. He's like, "Well, come back here. You have to shake my hand. Like, sure, we've signed, and you have all the papers for her, her ownership and freedom and everything, but that's the South, and in the South, a deal isn't a deal unless you've shook on it. So you have to come over and shake my hand." And the German really doesn't like him and does not want to do this, but he keeps insisting. And the German's finally like, "Okay." And he's got a little derringer that pops out of his wrist, and so he's like, "Fine." He walks over and shoots him in the chest.
It's like, I really didn't want to do it, but he insisted.
Yeah, it's just he made it too. I couldn't. I had to do it.
Yeah. And then he just gets blown into the wall by a fucking shotgun.
Yep. And then Django starts killing everybody.
Yep. Of course he did.
And he kills about half of them, but then they get his wife, and so he surrenders.
Mm-hmm.
After the one guy gets shot in the knees 3 times. He's laying on the ground in between them.
Yeah. Just like a couple of his own guys shoot him by accident, and Django shoots him by accident.
His own guy was 5 feet behind him, shoots him in the knee, trying to shoot Django from cover. And then he's hung up naked with a muzzle on his face, upside down. And then Walton Goggins from Justified is going to castrate him, but then doesn't because Sam Jackson comes in and explains how he convinced them eventually, because they're really stupid and weren't really catching the clue he was laying down, that they should sell him to this horrible mine where he'll do nothing but be forced labor breaking rocks for the rest of his life until he can't work anymore, and then they'll just kill him and throw him in a hole. And so that's where he's being sent off to. Cue the required Quentin Tarantino.
Australian Quentin Tarantino.
Australian Quentin Tarantino. Which was very interesting when we first started talking. Is that Australian? Oh, okay, that's different. Anyway, Django convinces them that he's a bounty hunter, which he is. But he convinces them that, earlier, his first, after he was freed for killing the 3 guys that he identified, after that, the first bounty that he killed, the German told him, was you have to, it's good luck, you have to keep the paper for the first bounty that you complete. So he had that in his pants still. And so he pulls that out and basically weaves this story about how all these people were on Candyland, which is... Did we mention that Candyland was the name of Candy's plantation?
No, we haven't.
Candyland.
Candyland.
It's pretty awesome. And weaves a story that they went in there to get them, but they were jumped, and it went south. And the German died, and Candy died, and they're kind of sticking the whole thing on Django now. Which is why, because they already know that he's not actually on the list of slaves that are supposed to go to the mining operation, but the guys, I'm assuming Candy and I were just here's a few $100 extra, take this guy too. And it's not when they get there, the mining operators are you gave us an extra, how dare you? So, but because there's all these little bits that sort of match up with the story, they actually free him. And then give him a gun, because they're going to ride in there and kill those people for they're worth $11,000. And instead Django kills the Australians. And also Michael Parks as pretty much exactly Sheriff Earl McGraw again. But I'm assuming he's a distant relative of Earl McGraw's great grandfather or something.
And Quentin had
And
to
Quentin
die.
blows up.
Yeah, via dynamite, getting shot.
Yeah, he gets shot while holding dynamite and explodes.
So.
And then Django runs back and finishes killing the rest of them.
Yep. And blows up the house with Sam in the house.
Jackson
Yeah.
still in it, yelling.
Yeah. Sam Jackson just drops his cane and he's just like walking up to him. He's like, "I counted 6 shots, nigga," and
He just pulls up. He got
he's like, "I got
bullets.
2 guns." There were some really, really good scenes in the movie. Yeah, I like that was about it. Then they, he's like, "Hey, what's up, little trouble?" Or what was it?
Little troublemaker.
Little troublemaker. And she's like, "Nothing, big troublemaker." And then for some reason, Jamie Foxx is like swirling around on his horse.
Yeah, makes his horse dance for a bit.
Yep.
And off they go.
And then off they go. It was a good movie. We really enjoyed it. It's my second favorite movie of 2012. Spoilers. I'm guessing you agree with me.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's
Good
good.
movie. Good movie. Go see. Go see. Good movie.
Go see a good movie. So yeah, that was our review of Django Unchained. I am Matt. This is Jerva. Please like the video and comment below, and hit that subscribe button. You guys have a great night. Love you. All right. Let's
Dance.